Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel and the rebuild of our unfinished Sealine SC35. In the last episode we managed to successfully test our new windscreen wiper motors, which fortunately, after a little head scratching, we managed to get working. Next we epoxied the underside of the deck and cut a hole ready for getting the wiper motor and blade fully installed. We also made more progress on the inside in the heads, continuing with the ceiling frame and building a brand new bulkhead that now gives us access to the freshly installed wiper motor. And to top it all off, a huge thank goes out to one of our subscribers, Billy, who came down and helped us professionally seal in the new cockpit windows, making a first-class job of the sealant work. In today's episode we'll be continuing with the heads framing, so let's get stuck in. Look at that sealant work, guys. So that looks absolutely incredible. Billy has knocked it out of the park. That really does look good, way beyond anything we could have done. This is what the difference is between a professional and somebody like us who's just DIYing it. That has really just made that now. That glass looks absolutely brilliant, and so pleased that Billy took the time out to come all the way over here and help us out with this. One of our subscribers. Big shout out, Billy, thank you very much. And while Billy was doing that, we got this windscreen wiper motor fitted as well. That isn't on properly, that's just sort of resting there at the moment. Actually the park position is over here, but we've left it there so that hopefully the wind doesn't sort of knock it about too much. If we put it down here, it wants to try and drop onto the deck. But yeah, that's worked out really well. We had to just sort of guesstimate where this needed to go. We did have some measurements off the original, of one of the original boats, so or a photo of it rather actually is what we had, so then we were able to sort of plot basically off this sealant line how far we thought it was to that position there, and that's worked out absolutely perfectly. When it sweeps across, it just falls short of the ceramic band, so that is perfect. So now we move below deck and time to look at this head's ceiling frame. This ceiling lattice work has actually turned out a lot better than I thought, so I think we could try and do the same here on the main ceiling section. I was going to follow the same convention as we did before in the rest of the boat, which is to cut these 100mm strips and then just form that lattice work in here. In fact, if I spin around, you can see here in the master cabin, that's exactly what we did. Very difficult for us to justify cutting up full sheets of ply and putting it up as one piece with all of the wastage in between. If you imagine if you were in a factory setting with a CNC machine, you could then use the smaller cutout areas and create other parts for them, but we just don't have that luxury. So I think what I'll do though, having said that, is I think we can afford to do it in this smaller area. So what I'll do, it's quite a tricky shape, I've got a few steps, got a bit of a funny angle here as well, a bit of an angle piece. So I think what I'll do is I'll get a scrap piece of plywood first, just so I can get the shape, and then once I've got the shape I'll cut it out of a sheet of plywood, and then I'll be able to cut out the centre sections. So these jobs always take longer than you think, and this template certainly has. I had quite a few hours on it yesterday and then an hour on it this morning, but that is now, after quite a few attempts, is fitting really, really nicely. Nice consistent gap all the way around, and we've got a nice consistent gap over here as well. And what we also have is a 6'2" and a little bit height here. So when you stood in the shower there, it's about 6'2.5", I'm going to say. So as much height as we can get, and as you can see, we're pretty hard up against the underside of the deck there as well. What we're also going to do is, because this deck is sloping down as it moves towards the bow of the boat, we're going to let the ceiling just follow that contour a little bit as well, just again to try and maximise that headroom. So here, this is actually touching the underside of the deck. What that means, I'm going to have to recut this piece here and just add a little bit to the top there. You can see that, but then we'll be absolutely maximising that headroom. Like I say, that's hard under there, so we're not going to get any more headroom than that, and then it will just gently curve as it comes forward. So I think we can consider this success, so I'll get that cut now to the proper 12mm plywood. I brought this ceiling piece back down into the workshop, and now I'm going to fix these spars. So these spars are just using the poplar lightweight plywood. What I'm going to do is screw them onto the top face of this ceiling piece. I've got one here, and then I've got another one over here. And these are contoured, of course, to the shape of the underside of the deck as well. So what I'm going to do is screw those all on and then just check that that fits. And what we're looking for is sort of a nice 10mm gap between the top of these and the underside of the deck. So I've just got these upright pieces now to finish on the bulkhead section before I can do the final dry fit. So these are just cut loose. They are contoured to the bottom, the underside of the deck, so these will glass on to the underside of the deck, and that will give this all of its strength. So what I'll do now is get these all lined up, get them screwed into place, and then I can do that final dry fit. Dry fit's looking really good, so that now fits really well. All of those little uprights, got a nice little consistent gap across the top there to the underside of the hull, which means we can just glass onto the hull and make sure that we've got no hard points. So yeah, you can see through there, and we're nice and hard up against the ceiling as well, so on the underside of the deck, so we've got as much height as we can possibly get. So I think what I'll do now is I'll fetch this back down again, and I'll give this a coat of polyester resin just to protect it from any moisture. So I'm back on this bulkhead piece again, and I just need to recut this front piece here. So this was just done out of some scrap plywood that we've got knocking around in the workshop, and I'm now going to cut it out of this. It's actually Garnica efficiency plywood, super lightweight this stuff. It basically feels like balsa in your hand. It's so lightweight. Lots of applications you can use this for. One of those is marine. So, and once you've coated it in polyester resin as well, should be very, very durable. So yeah, let me get this piece cut. Ceiling frame now is all done, coated, just needs bonding into place. We have got this bottom framing here that we built before, and that again just needs coating, and then that can be glassed and bonded into place as well. But what we need now is a frame that comes across the top of the window and then comes along here, because the idea is we're going to be having wall mount units here that run up to the shower, and they're going to hang on this framing here, and then we also want them to be sort of supported on the bottom. We think we need that strength, but at the same time what we don't want is it touching the hull either, because if you can imagine, if this hull takes a bump on the dock, you don't want that damaging your cabinetry. So we'll need probably leave a 25-30 mil gap, something like that. So anyway, so what I'm going to do is start creating, we've got some scrap plywood, so I'm going to start creating a frame that runs under here. Nobody wants to see that. So we've got our framing in now, so this is just a dry fit at the moment, just to give us an idea of how this is all going to go together and whether we can open the window. So that all does work quite nicely. So you can see that we can open that window and there's plenty of room. So this will all get clad. We're not quite sure what in yet, but it'll be some sort of finishing material, and there'll also be a finishing piece or pad behind this or around this window as well, and then all the other sort of pieces will run into it, but that's all yet to be worked out. We're just working on the framing side at the moment, and what we need to do now, we'll just check the toilet as well, just to sort of check that we've got height and we've got width as well, so that we can sit on that toilet okay, bit of shoulder width, and then we've still got room for the sink here, which is the plan. We are going to have to make a top for this as well that we shape to the hull. We're going to come back to that. Next job is to get this timber out here, or this framing out that we've made before, and just get that all coated. So polyester on the back, and then we'll just coat the front in the black paint as before. Coated both sides of this now, so it's had a coat of polyester on the underside, and then we've got the black on the top side. This is just drying, and then that will need another coat, so I'm just going to leave that to dry in the sun for a minute. And then I've also just built up, this is for the heads, this is behind the, where is this? This is in the shower cubicle. I'd already built this piece actually, but I've rebuilt it and just added this top section on. That'll all make sense when it's back in the boat. So while I'm waiting for that paint to dry, just up in the cockpit, radar arch here, and we've got on the underside here some adhesive residue. This presumably would have been from probably some Velcro, that maybe was for the underlining, that's what I'm guessing. Anyway, it's one of those jobs that you sort of put off and you think, oh, I'll get around to that at some point, but you never do, because you know it's going to be a nightmare. Anyway, I'm going to have 10 minutes on this and see if I can get rid of that using the heat gun and a plastic scraper. Okay, that's going to be a wrap for today's video, guys. Hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, give us a thumbs up, and we'll see you on the next one.